My name is David Preston. I'm Miss Preston's dad. And we are on the shores of China Lake in China, Maine. And we are on a hunt, not for deer, but for something very, very small called a spring peeper. You probably all heard spring peepers, or you may not have known what they were. It's a little high-pitched sound that comes in the spring. It's a song, and it comes from a very, very tiny creature. I bet not many of you have actually seen a spring peeper because they're very small. They're only about an inch or at most an inch and a half big, and they usually come out at night in the spring when it's mating season, and the males call to the females so they know that they're around. And that's what makes the high-pitched sound. When Miss Preston was little, we used to go out at night in the spring and with flashlights and try to find a spring peeper. But it was very, very hard because when we got close, they would clam up and you couldn't hear them. Then you had to stop and wait, and finally they'd start calling again, and you'd try to find. They're very tough to find, so we may not see one, but if we do, it'll be something really special because something you've probably never seen before. So let's go. Okay, we're walking along now, and we're going towards what's called a vernal pool. This is a place where the frogs like to gather to lay their eggs. Now, you're probably familiar with frogs in the water, but these are actually don't spend most of their time in the water. Spring peepers spend most of their time on trees, under bark, and in the leaves on the forest floor. And they have one really cool thing. You probably wonder, what do frogs do in the wintertime? Well, spring peepers are not like other frogs. Most frogs bury themselves deep, deep, deep in the mud to keep from freezing. But spring peepers usually hang out in the leaves or under bark or under logs. And when it gets really, really cold, they're specially adapted to allow their bodies to freeze. And when the temperature goes below freezing, they start producing antifreeze in their bodies in the form of sugar that gets so concentrated that the organs are able to survive even though their heart stops beating, sometimes for months on end. And then when they thaw out in the spring, poof, they pop back to life. So that's one really cool thing.
That is so cool.
I felt frozen solid in the winter, but I don't think I really was. Here we are in front of this little temporary stream where the frogs are breeding. And you can hear now, behind me, there are actually two sounds. See if you can pick them out. The real high-pitched whistling sound, like that, those are the spring peepers. And the other sound that's longer, a trill, sounds like a cricket. It goes brrrr. Those are the wood frogs. Those are bigger frogs. We're going to try to see if we can find a spring peeper because they're even harder to find. Most spring peepers breed in little streams like this, or what's called a vernal pool, which is a temporary pond, usually in the woods, that mostly dries up in the summer or partly dries up, and that's what they like to breed in because there are no fish in these places, and so the fish won't eat the eggs that they lay in the water. And then when the little eggs hatch, of course, they turn into tadpoles, you know that. And a few weeks later, the tadpoles turn into little tiny adult frogs, and then they crawl off in the woods and hide. So we're going to try to sneak down and see if we can surprise a spring peeper. We have to be very quiet because when you can hear they're kind of clamming up. They know we're around. They usually stop calling, and then we have to stop and wait. Come with me. So we just had an unexpected pleasure to see a mouse down here, and mice like to come out at night. And so we got some pictures. We weren't able to get a video, but we'll include it in the video. Now the Peeper Frogs are starting up again, so I'm going to try to walk this way and see if we can see one. We have the elusive wood frog. And he is hiding under the leaves. We're just going to get him moving here. Oh, there he goes. Like, what's going on? I've never seen such a bright light at night.
There he's calling. So cool. So we heard a peeper frog over here, but as soon as we move closer, it stops peeping. So we have to be really still and see if it will start peeping again. Oh, there's one.
Usually they're on branches or small sticks. They're not usually right on the ground.
So we heard a peeper frog over this way. So we're waiting, and we're going to see if it will start peeping again. And then we'll shine the flashlight and see if we can find him. So cute. Right here. I don't know if you can see him. Oh yeah, right there.
There's the elusive Peeper Frog. There he is, right there.
Yay! And his little thing is...
Peep for us. Oh. Will you peep for us?
Oh my gosh.
You see him? He's really tiny. So you can get even closer. Get a side light. It's about as big as my thumbnail. Let's try turning it off and see if he comes back to life. Peep, 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 peep. See, his throat's all blown up like a bubble.
Yeah, that's how they make their noise.
He doesn't like the bright light. He's gonna do it. Doesn't like the bright light.
No.
If you look closely, you can see they have a brown cross on their back. Go around back. I don't know if you can see that. They have a brown cross, and that's why their Latin name is crucifer, which means cross in Latin. There he goes.
So cool. We found the elusive peeper.